A warm breeze carried the scent of blossoms as the Buddha walked through the village. His disciples following silently behind, the villagers gathered, eager to hear the Buddha speak, their faces filled with curiosity and reverence. Among them stood a potter, holding a chipped and discolored vase. His hands trembling as he tried to conceal it, the Buddha approached him. His gaze calm and compassionate, his presence calming the potter's nervousness. "Why do you hide this vase?" the Buddha asked, his voice soft yet filled with timeless wisdom. The potter hesitated, his shame evident, and he said, "It is imperfect, unworthy of being seen alongside the perfect vases." The Buddha smiled, his expression gentle, as he took the vase into his hands and examined it carefully. "This vase is flawed," the Buddha said, holding it up for everyone to see. "But tell me, does it hold water?" The potter nodded, confused, and answered, "Yes, it holds water well, despite its imperfections and the chips in its surface." "Then its purpose is fulfilled," the Buddha said, his voice steady. "For what greater value can it have than serving its purpose?" The disciples gathered closer, curious about the teaching that was unfolding, their minds eager to grasp the lesson. The Buddha turned to the crowd and said, "In life, we often seek perfection in others, judging their flaws harshly. But perfection is an illusion," the Buddha continued, his voice resonating with wisdom, "and flaws are simply marks of individuality. This vase," the Buddha said, holding it in the sunlight, "is unique, shaped by the hands of the potter's labor. Each chip, each imperfection, tells a story," the Buddha explained, "and through its flaws, it serves as a vessel for water." The potter looked at the vase anew, seeing it not as a failure, but as an object with meaning and worth. The humble threads remind us to weave lives of integrity, compassion, and awareness with each decision we make. A moment of silence spread, the disciples reflecting on Buddha's teaching and their own attachments. "To seek perfection in others," the Buddha said, "is to blind ourselves to the beauty of their true nature. Look beyond the surface," the Buddha instructed, "and see the essence of what makes each being valuable and unique. Each stitch carries intention, and each fold reminds us that inner beauty transcends outer appearances." The robe was passed among the disciples, each feeling the weight of its simplicity and profound meaning. The potter placed the vase among his collection, no longer hiding it, but displaying it proudly as a symbol of truth. "This vase holds water," the Buddha repeated, "and that is enough. Let it remind you of the worth in imperfection." The disciples bowed, silently absorbing the lesson, their minds opening to the concept of accepting imperfections in all forms. The Buddha walked on, his steps steady, his teachings leaving a lasting impression on the hearts of those he touched. Through the chipped vase, the Buddha shared timeless wisdom, revealing the profound truths hidden within the simplicity of everyday life. The villagers dispersed, carrying the lesson with them. Their perspectives shifted, their hearts softened by the Buddha's profound words. For the Buddha's teachings on imperfection were not just philosophical, but deeply practical, meant to transform their understanding of each other. Ananda spoke again. "Master, can simplicity in garments alone bring enlightenment or guide us toward liberation?" Buddha's gaze softened. "Simplicity is one door to mindfulness, but liberation depends on consistent awareness across all facets of life." The disciples nodded, their understanding deepening, and their hearts resonating with the wisdom shared. Buddha continued, "True liberation arises from awareness imbued in everything: actions, thoughts, speech, and even your choice of garments. A robe may protect us from wind and rain, yet it must not shield us from truth and wisdom." And so, the Buddha taught not just through sermons, but through moments, each one layered with profound insight. For the Buddha knew that wisdom unfolds not in grand gestures, but in the acceptance of life's intricate and imperfect design. Thus, the lesson of the chipped vase became eternal, weaving itself into the hearts and minds of those who embraced its truth. The village changed forever. As the people began to see one another not as flawed, but as unique and purposeful, let them serve as reminders of life's impermanence. The disciples meditated on the leaves, the robes, and their personal attachments, feeling an awakening deep within. Each villager carried the teaching home, finding ways to apply it in their lives. Their hearts kinder, their judgments softened. Through the chipped vase, the Buddha unlocked the door to seeing deeper, beyond appearances, into the soul's true essence. The robe, now dyed and completed, was admired but not envied, cherished yet not craved. Buddha gently spoke. This robe symbolizes neither poverty nor prosperity, but balance and the freedom that accompanies detachment. Let this be a reminder to live not in excess, nor deprivation, but harmony, always guided by wisdom. The grove hummed softly with the sound of life continuing, each disciple sensing the interconnectedness Buddha described. Buddha's teachings did not end with the robe but extended into their daily actions, shaping their lives and paths. Every step on their spiritual journey was now accompanied by the quiet yet profound lessons of simplicity. From that day onward, the disciples approached their lives with mindfulness sewn into each thought and intention. Buddha smiled at their transformations, content that his teachings resonated deeply and expanded their awareness. The chipped vase was only a beginning, a stepping stone toward the greater understanding of interconnectedness and compassion. And so, the journey of wisdom continued, as the Buddha illuminated the path through simple yet profound teachings. Another day, as the sun ascended, Buddha walked through a village where merchants displayed luxurious fabrics and gleaming adornments. The villagers gathered around Buddha, their faces marked by curiosity and their voices burdened with debates over wealth and clothing. A merchant approached and bowed, speaking, "Master, tell us, should a person's value be measured by the finery they wear?" Buddha observed the silken garments draped before him, their vivid colors glowing under the light of the morning sun. "True worth," Buddha began, "is not sewn into the folds of silk but found in the fabric of one's actions." He picked up a thread from a torn garment, its frayed ends fluttering softly in the gentle breeze. This single thread may appear fragile, yet when woven with others, it forms the strength to hold many burdens. In the distance, they heard the sound of a veena being tuned, its notes weaving through the morning air. Curious, the disciples followed the sound and came upon a musician sitting under a tree by the river. The musician adjusted the strings of his veena, his face showing frustration as he struggled to achieve perfect harmony. One string snapped as he tightened it too much, while another produced no sound when left too loose. The Buddha approached the musician and asked gently, "Why do you seek to balance these strings so carefully?" The musician, startled by the question, looked up and replied, "To create music, the strings must neither be too tight nor too loose." The Buddha nodded, his gaze calm and understanding, and said, "Life is much like your veena, delicate and in need of balance." The disciples gathered closer, intrigued by the analogy, eager to uncover the wisdom within the Buddha's words. "When you expect perfection from others," the Buddha said, "you pull their strings too tight, and they may break. And when you neglect others," the Buddha continued, "their strings remain slack, producing no melody and serving no purpose." The musician listened intently, his frustration easing as the Buddha's words began to resonate within him. Each string has its own tension, its own unique place in creating harmony, the Buddha said, gesturing to the veena. "It is not the sameness of the strings," the Buddha explained, "but their differences that together create beautiful music." The disciples exchanged thoughtful glances, reflecting on their own relationships and judgments of those they encountered on their path. In your life, the Buddha said, you will meet people who are like these strings, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. If you demand perfection, the Buddha said, you impose expectations that may push them beyond their capacity, causing harm. And if you neglect them, the Buddha continued, you fail to nurture their potential, leaving them unfulfilled and disconnected. The musician adjusted his remaining strings, applying the Buddha's teaching, finding balance in each string's unique tension. Each person you meet is like a string, the Buddha said, essential to the melody of the interconnected world. The disciples nodded, their understanding deepening, as they considered how their own judgments had clouded their ability to harmonize. The strings of the veena work together, the Buddha said, but they also require care and understanding from the musician. The harmony of life, the Buddha explained, depends not on perfection but on balance and acceptance of differences. The musician began to play, the sound of the veena now flowing smoothly, the melody vibrant with newfound balance. The disciples listened, the music carrying the Buddha's teaching, each note a reminder of the lesson they had learned. Perfection is not the goal, the Buddha said, for it is in balance that we find harmony and understanding. The musician looked up, gratitude in his eyes, and bowed to the Buddha, his heart lightened by the wisdom imparted. The Buddha turned to the disciples and said, remember this lesson, for it will guide you in all your relationships. Seek balance in others, the Buddha said, and within yourself, for balance is the foundation of compassion and wisdom. The disciples bowed, their resolve strengthened to live by the teaching, to create harmony in their interactions with others. The Buddha and his disciples continued their journey, the melody of the veena lingering in their minds and hearts. Through the simple act of tuning strings, the Buddha revealed profound truths, connecting the mundane with the spiritual. The veena became a symbol of balance, reminding the disciples to approach others with understanding and acceptance of imperfections. The musician's face shone with peace as he continued to play, the music resonating with the Buddha's timeless wisdom. The disciples reflected on their own relationships, vowing to honor the individuality of others and embrace the beauty of diversity. For in balance, the Buddha had said, lies the key to harmony, not only in music but in life itself. As the river flowed beside them, the lesson flowed within them, shaping their thoughts and actions in the days to come. The Buddha's teachings were not confined to sermons, but lived experiences, each moment rich with opportunities for growth and learning. The veena's melody became a guide, reminding the disciples of the delicate balance required to nurture and sustain connections. And so, the Buddha taught that life's harmony emerges not from seeking perfection, but from embracing the balance within all things. Each step on the journey carried the weight of the lesson, the disciples striving to embody the wisdom they had received. The musician's strings, once a source of frustration, became an instrument of enlightenment, a reminder of the Buddha's profound insights. Through this simple episode, the Buddha illuminated the path toward acceptance, compassion, and the art of living in harmony. And as the sun set, its golden light dancing on the river's surface, the disciples felt the echoes of the teaching. For the Buddha's words were not just for the moment, but for eternity, guiding hearts toward understanding and interconnectedness. The veena's song lingered in the air, a testament to the beauty of balance, the lesson resonating deeply within all who heard. And thus, the Buddha continued his journey, spreading wisdom like seeds, nurturing the soil of humanity with the truth of imperfection. The disciples carried the lesson forward, their hearts filled with gratitude, their resolve firm to seek harmony in all things. The melody of the veena remained with them, a reminder that balance, not perfection, is the essence of life's music. the musician watched the Buddha depart. His spirit uplifted, his hands steady as he played, his music carrying the teaching onward. For in the simplicity of tuning strings, the Buddha revealed the profound interconnectedness of all life. Each note a reflection of truth, the veena became a symbol, not only for the musician but for the disciples, a reminder of life's delicate equilibrium. The Buddha's path illuminated the way, his teachings weaving a tapestry of wisdom that guided all who listened with open hearts, and so, the lesson of the veena became eternal, a cornerstone of understanding, embracing the imperfections and uniqueness of all beings. The river flowed on, its currents carrying the echoes of the Buddha's wisdom, rippling through the hearts of those who listened. Through balance, the disciples found harmony within themselves, and through harmony, they found the path to deeper compassion and understanding. The musician's strings sang not only of music but of life itself, a testament to the timeless truth of the Buddha's words. And as night fell, the disciples rested, their minds illuminated by the lesson, their hearts at peace with the wisdom of balance. Through this episode, the Buddha taught that imperfection is not a flaw, but a necessity in the symphony of life. The veena's melody carried the truth onward, a song of acceptance and harmony, echoing through the vastness of existence. Another day, another lesson. The Buddha and his disciples wandered into a dense forest, the sunlight filtering through tall trees. Amid the grove stood a crooked tree, its trunk bent and gnarled, surrounded by straight and towering companions. The disciples paused, pointing at the crooked tree, their expressions filled with judgment and disdain for its misshapen appearance. "This tree is useless," one disciple said, his voice carrying derision. "Its wood is unsuitable for building or crafting anything of value," another disciple added. "It bears no fruit, no flowers, and offers no shade. Why does such a tree even exist?" The Buddha listened silently, his gaze fixed on the crooked tree, his face calm and filled with infinite compassion. He stepped forward, placing his hand gently on the gnarled bark, his touch a symbol of acceptance and understanding. "Tell me," the Buddha said, his voice soft yet resolute, "what makes you believe this tree has no worth or purpose?" The disciples exchanged uncertain glances, surprised by the question, their judgments suddenly feeling shallow in the presence of the Buddha. One disciple hesitated but responded, "It cannot serve as the straight trees do. It appears broken, out of place, and purposeless." The Buddha smiled gently and said, "What you see as brokenness may, in truth, be the tree's unique strength." A villager passing by overheard and stopped, listening with curiosity as the Buddha began to unfold a deeper understanding. "This tree," the Buddha said, gesturing toward its twisted branches, "has stood through storms that may have felled straighter trees. Its crookedness," the Buddha explained, "allows it to bend with the wind, while rigidity can lead to breaking under pressure." The disciples watched, their judgments softening, as the Buddha's words began to reshape their perception of the crooked tree. "Look around you," the Buddha said, pointing to the ground. "Do you see the animals resting in its shade?" The disciples looked closer and noticed squirrels, birds, and insects finding refuge in the hollows and curves of the tree. "Even in its gnarled form," the Buddha said, "this tree provides shelter and sustenance to countless beings in this forest." The villager spoke, adding, "This tree also stabilizes the soil, preventing erosion, and its roots hold the forest together during rains." The Buddha turned to his disciples and said, "Do you now see how this tree serves its purpose, despite its imperfections?" The disciples nodded slowly, their earlier judgments dissolving as they recognized the inherent value of the tree's unique form. "The crooked tree does not strive to be tall or straight," the Buddha said, "yet it fulfills its own purpose. To judge it," the Buddha continued, by the standards of straight trees is to misunderstand the diversity and interconnectedness of life. The disciples lowered their gazes, realizing how often they had applied rigid judgments to others, failing to see deeper truths. Imperfection is not a flaw, the Buddha said, but a reflection of the countless ways each being contributes to the whole. This tree's uniqueness, the Buddha explained, is its gift, its way of existing and offering value to the world around it. The villager bowed to the Buddha, his respect growing, and said, "Your words have opened my eyes to the beauty of this tree." The Buddha placed his hand on the tree again and said, "May it remind you of the worth within all beings." The disciples stood in silence, their hearts and minds transformed by the lesson, their understanding of imperfection forever altered. This tree, the Buddha said, teaches us that value is not found in conformity but in the authenticity of one's being. Each being has a purpose, the Buddha continued, whether it is visible to the world or known only to themselves. The crooked tree became a living symbol for the disciples, a reminder of the Buddha's teaching about acceptance and understanding. As they left the forest, the disciples felt lighter, their judgments replaced by compassion and their hearts filled with newfound wisdom. The Buddha's words echoed in their minds, guiding them to see the beauty in diversity and the strength in imperfection. Through the crooked tree, the Buddha revealed the interconnectedness of life, a truth that transcends appearances and surface judgments. The villagers who heard the story passed it along, spreading the lesson of the crooked tree far beyond the forest. The Buddha walked on, his footsteps steady, his teachings weaving harmony in the hearts of all who crossed his path. The disciples carried the lesson forward, sharing it with others, planting seeds of understanding wherever they journeyed. For the Buddha's teachings, like the roots of the crooked tree, nurtured the soil of human consciousness, fostering compassion and growth. The crooked tree stood as a silent teacher, its gnarled form a testament to resilience and the beauty of imperfection. The lesson of the crooked tree became a cornerstone of the disciples' learning, shaping their actions and their view of the world. And so, the Buddha continued to illuminate the path, offering wisdom that transformed lives. One moment, one teaching at a time. The forest remained a sacred space, the crooked tree standing as a beacon of truth, its presence forever meaningful and profound. Through the simple act of seeing deeper, the Buddha unlocked the door to a more compassionate and interconnected understanding of life. The disciples rested that evening, their hearts at peace, their souls inspired by the Buddha's words and the tree's silent wisdom. The crooked tree, once deemed useless, became a symbol of the beauty and strength found within life's imperfections. As night fell, the disciples reflected on the day's lesson, carrying the truth of the crooked tree into their dreams. Through this episode, the Buddha taught that value is not determined by outward appearance but by the purpose and essence within. The lesson of the crooked tree resonated deeply, a timeless truth that guided the disciples on their journey toward enlightenment. The crooked tree's shadow stretched across the forest floor, a quiet reminder of the Buddha's wisdom shared that fateful day. The villagers, too, carried the teaching home, their hearts softened, their perceptions forever shifted by the lesson of the crooked tree. The Buddha's teachings continued to flow like a river, nourishing minds and souls, bringing clarity and peace to all who listened. Through the crooked tree, the Buddha imparted a wisdom that transcended the moment, echoing through the ages, guiding countless lives. For the crooked tree stood not as a flaw but as a reflection of life's intricate and interconnected design. The disciples slept peacefully, their dreams filled with the lessons of acceptance, compassion, and the beauty of imperfection. And as the stars illuminated the night sky, the Buddha's teachings illuminated the path, guiding humanity toward deeper understanding and harmony. Through the crooked tree, The Buddha showed the world that imperfection is not an obstacle but a bridge to greater truth, and so, the journey continued, the Buddha's wisdom lighting the way, his teachings shaping the hearts and minds of all who followed. It reminds you that storms within are reflections of the whole, fleeting yet transformative. Rahula asked, Master, how do we live with interconnectedness? Must we act with constant mindfulness of our impact on others? The Buddha answered, living interconnectedly means acting with awareness. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.